We believe Europe is the biggest opportunity for value creation in sports at this moment. It's much more scattered. It is relatively poorly managed. It is under-invested, and also the multiples are much lower than, for example, in the US. We are the first mid-market sport investment fund focusing on Europe. So we believe
Danny Menken is the co-founder and managing partner at Athvance Capital, co-founder of V2 Ventures, and co-owner and chairman of Levels Fight League. He specializes in scaling sports, media, and entertainment platforms, helping founders and rights holders build global sports assets and long-term value.
basketball in Europe is very much undervalued and will see a massive growth in the next couple of years. So that would be a very natural vertical to place next to it.
What's one bold prediction for the future of sport?
That's a good question.
Great. Well, Danny, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm very excited about this conversation. Danny is the managing partner and founder of Athvance Capital. And we also used to be colleague at Acer, where Dan, used to be managing director running basically one of our main assets, 11 Sports. So it's a pleasure to see you today after so many years that you spent at the intersection of sports, media, entertainment, both at 11 Sports, Eurosport, and now with Athvance Capital. So it's quite an exciting conversation I think that we're going to have around how the sport ecosystem is being built today. And I think who's best positioned to talk about this than you, Danny. So
It's always a pleasure, first of all, to speak with you, Massimo, but definitely also to speak with people who really understand the sport industry and its dynamics. So, big pleasure to be on the podcast today.
Well, thank you very much. And I promise to our listeners that I didn't offer you to take you out for dinner when you're next in London. But
That's great.
So to start with, Danny, what led you to build and launch Athvance Capital, and how did the idea started?
Now, actually, as you know, I have a very long background in the international sport industry. So for over 20 years, I became managing director of Eurosport in 2006. Did that for 6.5 years. Moved to a Dutch private equity fund to manage their sport assets. Created Infostrada Sport Group. Became CEO. Did some buy and build. Sold that early 15. Then co-founded 11 Sports. And this is obviously where we know each other from very well. 4 years ago, a company was sold to DAZN. It's for me also at the moment to step away. Since then, I have been dealing a lot with some bigger private equity funds where I helped them with sport and entertainment related acquisitions and some strategic projects. So I've been active in the sport investment side already for years. Have co-founded several sports related companies in the last years and also invested in some. And a few years ago, around 2 years ago, my partner in the fund, Karim Ben Rajeb, and I met each other at the Hoffman process, which is a introspective program for a week. It's an hour outside of London, in the middle of nowhere. For a week, you really dive into your childhood experiences and try to improve your inner self. We as professionals, we're always improving our businesses, and but it's also good to look at your inner self. So this is where we met each other. He has a big background in finance. Has been his whole career at JP Morgan. Last 7 years, he was responsible for the investment bank in France. And actually, after the program, we started to talk about the sports industry, and especially the European sports industry and all the opportunities which are there. Because we were very, and still are very much aligned on that. We believe Europe is the biggest opportunity for value creation in sports at this moment. If you compare it to the US or to other markets, it's much more scattered. It is relatively poorly managed. It is under invested, and also the multiples are much lower than, for example, in the US. We believe it's the perfect scenario for value creation. And there currently we are the first mid-market sport investment fund focusing on Europe. So we believe there's a full blue ocean. We won't be the last, and a few ones are already coming up now. But we believe the market is there and the opportunities are there.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, I guess one of the things that from our conversations that I took away, and to be fair, I definitely subscribe to, is that it's important to look at it as an ecosystem. The interconnection between various assets rather than standalone investments. I think is one way to also make this theory of an execution of investing in sports more, in a sense, more attractive than others. And can you maybe related to that explain a little bit more what is the strategy at Athvance and how you're combining IP, technology, services into your umbrella?
Yeah. So first of all, we have launched an evergreen structure, and this gives us the opportunity to grow limitless in terms of capital raising, but also in terms of time. So we don't believe that a traditional closed-end fund structure is working very well for the dynamics in the sport industry. Hence, we are using an evergreen structure. And also, the strategy we have is building an ecosystem per sport. This is completely different than the traditional private equity approach, working in silos and having equity in various businesses, but not necessarily having any synergy between the businesses. So we are building an ecosystem where we focus on scalability, where we focus on synergy between the ventures, and where the fan and the athletes are at the core of everything we do. I think that is super important. So how does it look like? So we focus on sport IP, so clubs, leagues, tournaments, events, and then the whole tech and services infrastructure. So you can call it picks and shovels type of companies to support and monetize the IP. So with that, we are building the full ecosystem and maximize synergy between the ventures and maximize value creation in the ecosystem.
I think that decision to go with an evergreen structure is super smart, and I think that's so as you were saying, but definitely differentiating, because at the end of the day, when you look at sports investments, particularly on the equity side, you need to take what is at least a medium-term view. So definitely we agree to the way, and I think you've been guys very, very smart in going with that sort of structure. So well done on that.
Thank you.
The other thing that perhaps is interesting to look at is the fact that you basically have at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of main operating businesses, right? You got Athvance Sports, which is basically your IP powerhouse, and then you have the V2 Ventures vehicle, which is where instead you kind of are been launching a lot of new businesses. Do you want to explain a little bit the difference between the two, and I guess related to the ecosystem point you were making, how the two interact with each other?
Yeah. So as you're saying, within our fund, we have two main operating businesses. So one is called Athvance Sports, and as you rightly said, we call this our sport IP powerhouse. So what we have created there, we have created a structure where we can develop IP ourselves, where we can invest in existing IP and scale it. So the perfect machine for IP creation and scalability. We have a very seasoned senior management on top of it, with a lot of experience both in sports and entertainment, because we believe that those two areas are converging more and more. And as you know, our focus is more on emerging and under commercialized sports. So we believe that by bringing in more entertainment, we will be able to create more interesting formats, better fan engagement, bigger fan base, and better monetization possibilities. So we have the senior management. Underneath, we have shared service centers on event organization, on sponsorship sales, on media rights sales, on marketing, on ticketing, on finance. And then per sport, we have a vertical with a small dedicated team and a dedicated managing director on top of it, who is one of the leading global persons in that sport. So far, we have 4 core verticals. The first one is football. The second one is padel. The third one is combat sports, where we have MMA and boxing currently. And the fourth one is emerging sports, but our main property there is on beach volleyball. Queen and King, Queen and King of the court. But the beauty of this structure is that we can enlarge the verticals, but we can also add new verticals next to it. For example, basketball in Europe is something which, in our view, is very much undervalued, and will see a massive growth in the next couple of years. So that would be a very natural vertical to place next to it. And so there are a couple of others.
Absolutely. And you've been spending also a lot of time in developing, technology play in this ecosystem, right? With V2 Ventures. So
Yeah, so the IP part, Athvance Sports is our one operating unit. The other one is V2 Ventures, which is our venture building studio. And there we actually have a similar structure with a very seasoned senior management, with a big background on building and exiting sport tech related businesses. There we have also shared expertise centers underneath on data science, IoT, branding, etc. And also there we have our tech and services companies with small teams per venture and a dedicated managing director. So it's a mirror of the IP organization we have. And obviously these two organizations work very closely together, because all these businesses we have in V2 Ventures are helping to support and monetize the IP.
so how much convergence do you think? Obviously, we're seeing a lot, right? But how much do you think people are exploring the convergence between fun, engagement, AI, media? How much more do you think there is to do, and are sporting organization able to, grasp the opportunities really in front of them?
I think a lot of people talk about it. In reality, the sport industry is quite conservative, especially in Europe. If you look, for example, at the value per fan in Europe, that's much, much lower than the value of the fan in the US.
Yeah.
And this gap, I don't think it will be completely closed, but I think the next couple of years we will see a big run in Europe upwards. And we're building the right tools for that. So are a lot of people busy with it? Yeah, by talking, not really yet by implementing. But I think we will see these in the next couple of years, because the whole sector will be becoming more and more professionalized.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I guess, one of the biggest things that you guys can bring is also the fact you have so many operating partners actually also, working with you guys, which, I think it's definitely also a differentiating point. So
Yeah.
it's perhaps, a good time now to transition a little bit into some of the verticals a little bit more in detail, right? So
Yeah.
you've been quite active. Why don't we start with football? It's end of the season. You have some good successes after
Yes.
a very heavy season. So do you want to talk a little bit more about what you're building with Estrella? What other sort of geographies are interesting, and how the Estrella Football Group is effectively building a different type of MCO, right? So it's not just about, consolidating a few clubs here and there, but actually bringing, as I understood it, at least, some more commercially focused capabilities, correct?
Yeah, correct. So actually, our football vertical is the biggest vertical we have so far. Important to mention is we're building ecosystems per sport. So for football, we are building one ecosystem where we have our clubs at the core. And we now have more or less 4 clubs. So 14 months ago, we bought Cascais, the 6th division club in Portugal. We didn't buy it because we wanted to have a 6th division club. We bought it because we thought that, or we saw the opportunity there, in terms of location, in terms of branding. Everyone knows Cascais. In terms of value we could create there with our ecosystem approach. And so we did. So without investing significant money in the squad, because we believe that is the wrong approach, we started the other way around. We started by creating really the buzz around the brand. We did a rebranding, new logo. We changed the name a little bit. We made a lot of buzz on social media, a lot of PR. And with that, we started to create really growth in the fan base. And actually, in 14-month time, we grew the fan base 20x. We grew the revenues significantly, and also the bottom line. This season, we haven't lost a single game, nor for the first team, nor for the under 19. So both have become champion last weekend, and both are going to be promoted. So that is really, really nice. And yeah, the valuation of the club has also skyrocketed now because of this. Now, that was the start actually of our of Estrella, of the rollout of our horizontal multi-club ownership strategy. And we now are onboarding Greenock Morton, so a second division club in Scotland, Central, a fifth division club in Sevilla, in Spain, Pro Patria, which just went from third to fourth division in Italy.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of more signed MOUs with other clubs. So we really focus on lower tier clubs, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth division, because we believe that is where we really can create value. We've proven that with Cascais. We want to grow as soon as possible to a 30-40 club ownership structure, because then we have maximum value creation by synergies within the ecosystem. We can use we call it Club OS, so all the tech and services to really help these clubs both on the pitch and off the pitch. And also by combining the reach of such a big group in terms of fan base, in terms of engagement, that will make us significant, and it will make us as big as several tier 1 football clubs, and that will also give us a very good seat at the table with the likes of Nike or Adidas or any big sponsor. So this is the whole idea behind Estrella, the clubs, the tech and services with Club OS. So that is the majority part of our football ecosystem. Then we also have Winner Stays, which is our own developed street soccer IP. We have a guy called Daniel Wood is heading that. He is really one of the leading guys in street soccer globally.
4x4, remind me the format of that.
3x3.
3x3, yeah.
Yeah, 3x3. So we're actually also going to organize, because of that, the World Cup of Street Soccer in the Netherlands this year, combining that with our own format. And the beauty here is people play 3-against-3 soccer, Winner Stays all around the world. No one has really claimed it. We're claiming it now, and we're really formalizing it and making a global league and tournament out of it. So that is for now the ecosystem we have, and there are many ventures in Club OS, but also alongside we have a stake in Robé, which is a kid brand. So we use that for all our football clubs, etc. So that's our football ecosystem. Then the second one is padel. With padel being the fastest growing sport in the world. So by 2030, it's expected that the number of practitioners is surpassing the number of tennis players. So it then should be around 130 million people playing padel globally.
And geographically spread, because actually I was in a panel recently, and I was with some squash representative, and they said one of the issues for padel might be at the moment that still a lot of champions are coming out of either Argentina or Spain. But of course, if the number of players are growing so fast, I guess question is where are the players coming from? I know in Italy is also very popular. Frankly, in the UK is becoming very popular. Lots of new other courts springing here and there. So what's on that?
You're completely right here. It's a very good point. So this is the biggest problem padel has. It is already existing for 40 years in Spain and in Argentina. So if you look at the top 100 players, what is it? 95% is either Spanish or Argentinian. Because they are playing it already for such a long time. This will need time. to change. So you see now that several markets in Europe are really picking up padel fast. The Netherlands is a big market. Belgium, France is growing fast. UK is really exploding. Germany is doing well. Italy is doing well. Portugal is a great market. Obviously, Sweden is a good market. There was a lot of things about the fact that a couple of years ago, a lot of the paddle courts in Sweden were going bankrupt, but that was not a problem of demand. It was just a problem of oversupply. They had built too many courts in a too short time. So obviously then there wasn't a good match there. So still double-digit growing per year in Sweden. So US is now coming up. South Africa is becoming a good market. So you see that paddle more and more is growing, but it is still the majority of the growth and value creation is in the amateur part. So is not in the pro part. So what we have within our paddle ecosystem, we have our own pro paddle tour called Padel Copa, which is certified or sanctioned by the FIP. We are developing that also into a pro-am structure. So focusing more and more also on the amateurs and really starting to build local heroes. So we now have a big event in Hamburg, where we also have Padel Copa. There we focus on the best players of Germany, really to create local heroes, because this is what's really necessary in the global paddle ecosystem. So we have the tournaments. We have our paddle tech with Padelplay.
I like that. Sorry, Danny, to interrupt, but I really like that. It's the IP and the tech piece. I mean, that's a perfect example. And to be fair,
Exactly.
I need to buy that so that I can actually improve my padel skills.
I'm not bribing you here, but you will get one from me. I will send one.
No, I really love to, because like I was looking at the data you get and how it works.
Yeah.
It seems like quite a very, very smart way to learn how to play.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that is so that product. So it's a sensor you put underneath your pedal racket. This is fully developed in-house at V2 Ventures, where we do all the hardware development, software, middleware, go-to-market, etc. So it tracks all your performance data. So it tells you, it uses AI to analyze everything. So it tells you right away what you have to change in order to improve your game.
Yeah.
It tracks all your data, so you can use it as a Strava for padel or a Whoop, and you can compare with your peers who was the better player. You can significantly improve ranking and rating systems. But we also use it for fan engagement. So with our Pro Padel Tour, Padel Copa, the players are using it, and we visualize the data on screens in the stadium, and we can do that also in the broadcast feed. And like if you're watching Formula One or Tour de France or whatever, if you see the data visualization and you really see what's happening on the field, that is when you really get engaged. So it's a perfect tool which creates several revenue streams for us and really helps us with the fan engagement and improvement of the IP.
Great. And then the next vertical perhaps is combat sports, right? Where you've been very busy in that space at the moment, if I understand correctly, right?
First of all, I'm a very big combat sports fan and practitioner myself. I've done combat sports my whole life, so I know a bit about the industry. I've been following it since the early 90s. What you see there is also in Europe. There's a massive opportunity in the US. Combat sports, and then I'm mainly talking about UFC or WWE and karate combat. They are very well organized, very well monetized, very professional, and super high valuations. The European landscape is completely different. There's a lot of talent, but it is a very fragmented landscape. It is under-invested. It is not really professional. And also the valuations are very low. So we really believe that this is a perfect play for buy and build. We have recently acquired Levels Fight League, which is the fastest growing MMA promotion in Western Europe. And we market leader in the Netherlands and Belgium. with a lot of fans, super good fan engagement. It's the beauty of combat sports. Very engaged fan base, very active. So we believe that we can easily grow this within the existing markets, but also outside, and then start at the basis of a buy and build. We have Exceed Boxing, where we focus on pro boxing and on Olympic style boxing. And we have a couple of very interesting combat sports assets in our pipeline. So here it's also a combination of undervalued assets, very engaged fan base, and really ready for a buy and build strategy.
In your last vertical, you were mentioning, is emerging sports, and in particular.
Yeah, and then particularly beach volleyball. So there we have Queen and King of the Court, which is a format which was fully developed by one of the businesses we bought. So they organized the first event in 2018. It has grown out to a global tour where we work closely together with the European Volleyball Confederation as well as with the FIVB, International Volleyball Federation. They absolutely love what we're doing. And here it's a big merge between sports and entertainment. The players love it, the crowd love it, and I can say that this is our most developed IP at the moment.
Great. And would you look within that vertical at some of the newer leagues that are, well, newer, there are so many, but some of the other developing leagues that are being launched, whether it's, obviously I don't want to go into specific, but these days we see so many launches, whether it's fencing, whether it's surfing, whether it's dodge diving, some of these.
Yeah.
We've been.
No, as I mentioned, we are definitely looking at expanding our verticals. I already gave basketball to you, which I think is a very interesting one. But we're also looking at others. I don't think we will grow from 4 key verticals to 10 in the next year, but maybe 1 or 2 in addition could make a lot of sense.
So one of these emerging vertical could become, one of similar to football, padel, or boxing, or MMA.
Exactly.
But sports rather could become another standalone vertical. Got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good. Well, let's perhaps switch gear a little bit. Given your significant expertise in the space, I think it'd be quite interesting for people to know, how do you think media consumption, fan behavior has changed and/or are changing, and what do you think that means for the sports that you've been and the IPs that you've been developing?
Yeah, as we all know, the traditional distribution model is really under pressure. And you see that all the real AAA tier 1 assets, they're still able to get huge amounts of money from the linear channels and distributors and some of the streaming platforms. But for all the tier 2 and 3, this is a no-go anymore. But the beauty is that nowadays production and distribution are very cheap and easy. And by making the right use of the various influencer broadcasting, athlete broadcasting, etc., you are in, and by pushing your own channels on the various social media and other platforms, I think if you have the right IP, it is relatively easy to get a huge distribution and fan base. So it's really changing, but there are a lot of opportunities for the people who really understand how to do it.
And what do you think is the role of betting, and also the other side of gaming? The video gaming as part of this. Is this an area where you guys have been thinking how to potentially play?
Video gaming, I think it's not really on our radar. I'm not saying that it will never be, but not for now. If you look at betting, I think with the right approach, the right partners, betting is always helping for fan engagement and for monetization. So I think for a lot of sports, it's a very important revenue line. Some markets, it's becoming more and more difficult to use betting operators as partners. But there are always the data and video feeds which you can monetize with bookmakers. So definitely an important part of the whole monetization ecosystem.
And finally, I guess, one of the things that also I liked about your positioning was the focus on health and longevity, I guess, and how to, support that. That's another area, I guess, where the broader sports investment world can move into, right? And you made a, big statement there, I guess, with a fresh pad, right? Why don't you talk a little bit about fresh pad and how everybody should have a fresh pad in their homes?
Absolutely. I think this is the right statement. So what you see is that sleep tech is booming. You have the Aura rings. Aura is now
Yeah.
valued. You have one, obviously. Aura is now valued at around 12 billion. Whoop just raised capital at 10.3 billion. Those are the devices, the wearables, which tell you whether you slept well or not. And most people use it for their sleep. If they wake up, if they can say, oh, I slept well or I didn't sleep well. I even have friends who say, yeah, I say, did you sleep well? Yeah, I thought I didn't, but my Aura ring says I slept well, so I did. So, but the thing is, they tell you whether you slept well or not. They are not changing it. There is 8Sleep, which is now valued at 1.5 billion, which uses you put a topper, an extra mattress on your own mattress, and it works with water flow, and you can regulate your body temperature with that. They are doing very well, valued at 1.5 billion at the moment. However, with FreshBed, we have a much better technology which works with airflow. So it's not something you add to your existing bed. It's a full bed, a full system. We have the full rights IP globally. It inhales air from the room that goes through medical grade filters, HEPA filters. So you get fully purified air, and you have pressure chambers in the bed bottom, and they push it, the purified air, through a special mattress, and you don't feel it, you don't hear it, but it creates a microclimate underneath your sheets. So it regulates your body temperature, and there's a feedback loop with, it's integrated with Aura, with Whoop, with Apple Watch, Apple Health. There are temperature sensors everywhere in the bed. So it really creates this feedback loop and keeps your body temperature stable, helps you in different phases of your sleep cycles. And sometimes it cools down a bit, sometimes it heats up a bit. So to maximize your deep sleep, it takes away any moisture. And because of that, you sleep much more relaxed, and scientifically proven, your deep sleep improves up to 50%, 50. And therefore your recovery is much faster and better, and your performance is much better. So this is really technology which helps you to improve your sleep instead of just telling if you slept well or not. So we bought a big stake in the company about half a year ago. Technology is already proven. It exists for 8+ years. Thousands of beds have been sold, but it had always been focused on the luxury industry. So in Lanzerhof, the number one spa hotel in Europe, they have it in the top suites, some Four Seasons hotels, etc. But we believe that the majority is in performance and recovery. So we have been completely refocusing it. We're focusing on sports, on athletes, on performance, and we are going to launch a new model in August, September. And we believe this is really going to be the next big thing.
You are democratizing sleep. That's
Exactly.
that's quite again something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Look, we're getting towards the end, but it's been a very, very interesting discussion. So I guess, I wanted to ask you, what's one bold prediction for the future of sport?
What's one bold prediction? To go back to our previous point, I think sleep so far still has been the biggest underrated improvement part for athletes, performers. I think in the next few years, this will become number one.
And if we were to sit down together again in 5 years, what do you think would have changed the most in the sports industry? I mean, besides, people being a lot more focused on sleep, let's say. What else do you think would be?
I think within Europe, be a consolidation. More and more people will start working in ecosystems instead of just trying to buy one asset, whether it is a tier 1 football club or whatever, and try to optimize that. I think the ecosystem approach is the only right way going forward, and the first, but more people will follow in the next 5 years.
Danny, thank you so much. I think we really had a very interesting conversation, talking about the intersection of sports and media and technology and how you're using it and the importance of the ecosystem building. So I'm sure, hopefully the listeners found it as interesting as we did. Thank you very much for joining. And Danny, congrats again on launching Athvance, and really so many exciting developments already in such a short period of time. So it's great to see.
Thank you. Thank you, Massimo. It's a pleasure to speak.
Thank you, and same here.